Hello, everybody. Before we get into the podcast, a quick content warning. There is definitely some adult sexual topics discussed here. Nothing too terribly graphic, but we get into it a little bit more than usual. There's also some talk of my caffeine addiction recovery and just stuff about being trans and realizing you're trans. I don't think there's anything too crazy. It's a pretty lighthearted episode overall, so don't worry about that. Yes, there it is. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to My Trans Best Friend, a podcast. I sound incredulous. Like, oh my God, I'm recording a podcast. It's been so long. It has been so long. And technically, I'm on vacation right now, but I had some creative energy. Oh, right. I should probably continue to introduce the podcast before I go too all over the place. Hello and welcome to My Trans Best Friend. My name is Lily. I'm your trans best friend. Just by listening to this, I have usurped any other trans best friends that you have. It is now me. I am now number one. Say sorry to all your other trans best friends. They are now numbers 2 and on. I'm number 1. I kid. Hello. I am here. And today we are doing a just me episode. No, Timothy is not here. He's teaching. He's got a full-time job teaching, so we're going to get to more Muffy Zest eventually. Fear not. We are going to talk about some stuff. I have so much to say. First off, I'm on vacation right now. I think if you are listening to this and you are Lily's Lovely, you might be listening to this as early as September 26th. Uno momento. I must cough. 1 sec. Hold, please. Sorry. I'm back. Hello. You might be listening to this as early as Tuesday, September 26th, when I am still on break. I had a realization early last week that I needed to just kind of take it easy, that I was going a little bit too hard, or going hard without enough of a break. Specifically with regards to streaming and, all of the negativity that can arise from being a trans person on the internet. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. The point is that I'm on break, but the other day I had this idea, I'm not fully back up yet, but I kind of like the idea of doing like a little thing just to kind of release the creative energy that I have pent up. Because, if you stream 5 times a week, a lot of that creativity gets funneled there. But it's been about a week for me, so I have this excess creativity and no outlet for it, unless I recorded a podcast. But so I have an idea. We're gonna do it in a little bit, but I wanted to do A, some housekeeping, and B, update you on what I've been up to for the last week. So we'll start with the housekeeping. This podcast is made possible by the Lily's Lovelies, like Kimberly, Mandy, Kirsten, and Parker, who are all listening right now to this podcast live. I kind of just randomly dropped this in the Discord. Otherwise, I would imagine if I had said it out loud, maybe a few more people would be here. But you could be one of these people listening if you supported me on Patreon. If you're listening to this, I can't imagine I'm going to drop this episode anytime before like the second week of October on the free feed. So you're getting this late if you're not on the Patreon. You could have had this last month. Yeah, you could have if you supported me on Patreon. Patreon.com/LilyTino. It is basically like Netflix for Lily, where you pay $5 a month or $10 a month to get extra stuff, specifically access to the Discord where our community lives. It's like a whole bunch of group chats. It's pretty awesome. And I mean, it's kind of like a whole group of friends. It is a whole group of friends. I've made many friends through the Lovelies Discord server. So we'd love to have you too. Extra special shout out to our two elite level sponsors. That is Caitlin and Felicity, who are supporting the Lovelies at a $75 and above level. Shout out to you two. Y'all are out there really, really making the rent checks happen because rent is expensive in San Francisco. Y'all know this. Anyways, patreon.com/LilyTino to join. What have I been up to in the past not even few weeks? It's barely been a week. It's Wednesday today. I think Wednesday of last week was my first full day off, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. But, I have one big thing to tell you about, but by and large, like by volume, the time I have spent has been doing nothing, and in a good way, okay? I have quit caffeine since Wednesday. Today, I think, marks a week. It's Tuesday. Is today Tuesday? Get out of here. Mandy says it's Tuesday. Ugh, Mandy's correct. I have no sense of time. Whatsoever. So it's about a week since I have quit caffeine, a little less than a week. And y'all, I got to tell you, the energy levels they're low. But also the stress levels are lower. I got it to a point of caffeine addiction, and I think I'll probably have to put a disclaimer. I'll put a couple of trigger warnings on this episode, depending on where it goes. We're not trying to make it like a downer episode by any means. This is not a downer episode. Few are, I think. But I was drinking so much caffeine in the mornings to like get myself going, to give myself the momentum I thought I needed. It is ridiculous. Pre-workout powder is dangerous, and it just got to a point where it was too much and I needed to stop. I've been caffeine free before, but a large part of the last week for me has been adjusting to being caffeine free again. I definitely have less energy, but that will change as time goes on because my body is used to getting like 600 milligrams of caffeine in the morning, which is, for those of you who know milligrams of caffeine, a stupid amount of caffeine, dangerous amount of caffeine. From 600 to 0 is a lot. So that I think has kind of been one of the main things I've been working on for myself in the past week, and I'm glad I did. Kimberly says that she quit the sugar-free Red Bulls. And by the way, Mandy, I'll get to your question about Folsom. Don't worry. Sugar-free Red Bulls, by the way, the medium-sized ones are 80 milligrams, if that kind of helps contextualize that. Is this, Mandy asks, is this a permanent thing or gradually reintroducing caffeine? It's permanent. I've kind of learned about myself that I'm really just not good at moderation of anything at all, be it, well, you can imagine. I'm just not good at moderation for things. Caffeine is one of those. So no, it's permanent. It will get easier. I remember on the stream before I went on break, I said, when you see me next, I'll be caffeine free. And that was almost kind of like a be on the point of no return kind of move for me, because once I say it on stream, it's true, right? So I did, and it is. Yeah, so there we go. So that's been one thing. So a lot of that has just kind of been adjusting to the energy levels, getting dopamine back slowly but surely, or serotonin or whatever it is. And, I've been snuggling with Nugget a lot. We've been watching TV, playing video games. I also, and shout out to one of our head moderators, Mackenzie. If you don't know Mac, Mackenzie is in many of the streams and also is a very active member in our Discord and a head moderator there. Mackenzie suggested, I think on the first day of my break, that I also detox from social media, which, Mackenzie, if you're listening to this, I hope you are. Hoo boy, was that a great idea? It seems so obvious, but I turned on the screen time limiter on my phone. So now it's 15 minutes. I get 15 minutes a day combined of TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Not that I'm going to spend that much time on LinkedIn anyways. It's not really anything fun there to begin with. But LinkedIn and I think Reddit. Is there anything else? Threads, I guess I threw in there. Basically anything where you can just scroll continuously. Like there's apps where you can scroll continuously. You just keep going and it's going to keep give you stuff. Yes, you like my nails? Thank you, Kimmy. And that has been a game changer because it forces me to like do other stuff. You know, other stuff on my phone sometimes, sure, but things that don't involve doom scrolling, I found myself in the 15 minutes that I do have, the 15 minutes that I do have to scroll social media, like, dang, why do I do this? It's one thing when I'm streaming because that's my, career path. So it's not like I'm trying to quit social media permanently. Unlike caffeine, this is more of just like a detox. It's just been very pleasant. And I've kind of just had more time with my own thoughts, which has been great. So caffeine detox, social media detox, both incredible. By the way, if you're watching this and not listening to this, you might wonder what this little bruise is on my chin. If you're just listening, you didn't know there was a bruise on my chin. I'm now telling you there's a bruise on my chin. I was on electrolysis on Saturday and they poked me the wrong way. It's all good, but that's what it is if you're wondering. The other big thing, the big thing I wanted to talk about before we get into our quote unquote activity for the day, because I do have a fun activity for us. I want to talk about the Folsom Street Fair. I visited, and this is, I will put a disclaimer, but this is going to be a sexually explicit section of the podcast. So if you, if that bugs you, you might want to skip ahead a little bit. Mandy says, I'm so old that I literally discovered TikTok 3 months ago. Yeah, I feel that, Mandy. Kimberly loves Folsom. Yeah. And so Folsom Street Fair, if you didn't know what it was, I will tell you. I think I talked about it. I'm sure I've talked about it on a different podcast before. But if you don't know, Folsom Street Fair is the horniest place on the planet. It is a street fair in the truest sense of the word, where they section off like a quarter mile, maybe a little more. I don't know. It feels like a lot more than it probably is, but it's a huge festival with tens of thousands of people. You make a donation to get inside. It's like $15. And the rules of society are different in Folsom. Clothing is very much optional. Many people choose to not wear clothes. I partially did this. Just you dress up for Folsom. It's like a kink and BDSM festival, right? So I was wearing these, Gretchen, by the way, if you're listening, Gretchen, like almost a year ago, sent me these beautiful lace-up boots with chains on them. I wore those. They're like boot heels, incredible. I was wearing a very short mini skirt, some red fishnets, and like a sheer black shirt. So you could see through the shirt. You could see my boobies, but it's kind of like I was still wearing something. But you walk around this place and there's so many people just straight up naked. Men, women, non-binary people, we're all here and we're all very naked. And there's demonstrations everywhere. Of course, it's a street fair. Like, you can buy stuff. There's a bunch of art stands. You can buy ball gags and leather this, leather that, whips, crops, bondage gear, you name it, you can buy it in any color you could possibly imagine. But there's also demonstrations everywhere. So there's people doing rope bondage, on a stage with 100 people watching, right? You can wait in a line to get spanked for fun in like a good way. It's good. I did that. I donated $20 to this like local San Francisco kink festival thing. I don't know, maybe it was Society of Janus. I'm not sure. But you just like give them $20 and they're like, okay, cool. Go ahead and get in line. Do you have any special requests? And I'm like, No, I don't, and I'm new to this. And she's like, okay, no problem. Cool, cool, cool. Wait in line. And then I did, and I got this, I got paired up with someone who paddled me for 5 minutes, and it was cool. It was great. I enjoyed it. Y'all know I like pain. I realized shortly out into it that I, have areas that I prefer over certain areas. That was kind of cool to learn about myself. And yeah, so we did that. I was with Katie. I'm going to make sure to use her code name. It was actually fun. She was introducing herself to people because I got recognized a lot at Folsom Street Fair. And we had this conversation ahead of time. She's like, well, if you get recognized, should I like say my real name? Like, why don't you say Katie? Because that's your code name. And she's like, okay, cool. So she was, every like 10, 15 minutes, we get someone who's like, oh my God. I was like, hey. And she introduced herself as Katie. And, I saw a whole bunch of people and walked around and just, it was incredibly busy. I can't imagine. I don't know how many tens of thousands of people, but it was a lot. Like elbow to elbow. One of those things where like you can't really, you like had to inch forward through the crowd because there's so many people. And then of course there was the tent. God, y'all, the tent. There is one part of Folsom Street Fair that I look forward to above any other, and that is the tent. It is a literal tent, so kind of closed off. It's not like a small little tent. It's a big, like one of those white area tents. You can fit 100 people in there. And you go in, and you can't get in unless you are a female identifying person or a trans gender non-conforming person. So no cis men allowed. Sorry, cis men. The rest of the fair is for you. This is for us. And it's just like a play party. You walk in there, someone's like getting fisted on a table in a good way. I mean, people are getting whipped and making out and doing all sorts of crazy stuff to each other. And it was awesome. And we hung out there for a little while, me and Katie, and yeah, we did our own playing. This is not a Lily's Lusties episode, so I will not get too much into it. Maybe on a different one, but needless to say, Katie and I carved out a little area for ourselves, and we put on a show for some people. And I hope that I got recognized while I was doing that, because that makes it a little bit hotter. I'm not going to lie. But yes, that was the Folsom Street Fair. I had a blast. Katie had a blast. And yeah, so that was kind of like the main event so far of the week I've been off. That was Sunday, and today's Tuesday. So yeah, that's been my break. I'm not sure when I'm gonna come back. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. We'll see. I don't know. I'm still kind of playing it by ear. I'm really enjoying the detox, so I'm still kind of thinking about it. But yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. But I think it would be cool, and this is kind of one of the reasons that I decided to record this podcast in the first place. Was I was working out the other day, and I was looking through my playlist. I was like, I listen to music in a way that is very memory specific. I would imagine most people do. Like you hear a song and it's like, oh, that brings me back to high school, or that brings me back to so-and-so, or I remember that song played all the time in this restaurant, or this person I really, an old friend introduced me to this song, right? I guess we all have those memories associated with songs. And it kind of occurred to me, like, I have this almost like timeline of my life, or moments of my life, kind of like a timeline of memories that exists in my Spotify. And if I were to scroll back all the way to whenever I started having Spotify, maybe 10 years ago, and all of the playlists that I make, because I make lots and lots of playlists, then I would essentially be able to like go and reminisce about moments and, eras of time via songs. So I figured it would be a cool thing to do um, if we did that together. So I think that we will go back in time via my Spotify. Now, I don't know if I'm allowed to play music on my podcast. I don't really feel like finding out if I'm not allowed to. I'm probably not. So what we're going to do instead of like me playing the music is I am going to make a Spotify playlist from the songs that I pick. Does that make sense? Does that sound about right, people who are listening? By the way, hi Dolores and hi Tiff, who just joined the live stream. Does that sound about right? If I like made a playlist, so if you really wanted to listen along, you could, kind of thing. Okay, so I want to open up. I'm going to go to my playlists by you. Then I scroll all the way down. Easy. All right. So it looks like hello. Hi. All right. So we are going to start. I don't know how far I'm going to get. I kind of just like the idea of taking my time here and just going through and talking about the stories that arise from them. Okay. Here's the first one. Hoo boy. Yes. Okay. So the first song, I think a lot of these songs are going to be camp related because so much of my life is camp related. And I know I don't talk about this too much on stream. Maybe I've talked about it a little bit more on the pod, but y'all, I was a camp kid. Summer camp, I mean. Sleepaway summer camp. I won't say the name of the camp I went to, but I went to the same camp every year. 7 years as a camper when, I had counselors. And then another 5 where I worked at the camp. It's like very much a kind of like full circle thing to go there and then to work there. And you go with a lot of people who are your age, who you start with at 3rd grade, and you work your way all the way up till you're like last year as a camper, and then you work together in a few years from there after that. It's like a whole thing. It was a Jewish summer camp, but it's and that kind of like had something to do with it, but the music here isn't going to be Jewish because Jewish music, no offense to Rick Recht and all those guys, it's kind of boring. So yeah, one of the things in the very, very first playlist that is marked as from 2012. So even though this playlist was invented or kind of like became a playlist in 2008 when I was in my final year as a camper, because in 2008 I was 15, and that is the last year you're a camper there. It's like you rule the camp. You're the cool kids. You're the oldest kids, and you're supposed to get up to no good in your last year and like make the best out of it. And there's a lot of pomp and circumstance. And this is your last summer. Like, make the best out of it. You'll never get this again. Ironically, of all the summers, that was probably the toughest summer for me because I was the most self-conscious that year. But the music comes into this at a specific juncture where a lot of times what the counselors will do to kind of try and create routine in every day, because it can be pretty crazy what you get up to. You might be up really late one night doing all sorts of weird stuff at 2 a.m. Everything's so different than the rest of the year that it's nice to have some kind of routine and you bond over it, right? So a lot of times what counselors will do is they will pick a morning playlist. Now, kids usually will stay up too late and they have to wake up at pretty early in the morning. You think you're supposed to, they wake up as like 7, breakfast is 7:30 or 8 or something like that. So, if you're up till 2, you're not going to want to, especially if you're one of the older kids, you want to sleep in. Not going to happen. The counselors need to wake you up. And the best way to do that is with loud music. So they'll typically pick 5 or so songs that will be the songs of the summer. And if you ask anyone, like some of the most memorable music they heard on any given summer at sleepaway camp, it's going to be the song that you hear every single morning. And if you can imagine, years later, when you hear one of these songs, it brings you right back, right? Of the songs, there's a five songs on here. I'll put a couple of them on. The first one is Steal My Sunshine by Len. I don't know if y'all know that song. It's such a weird song. It doesn't really make any sense. They talk about butter tarts, I guess. I don't even know how or why, but it is a very cheerful song. And then also a song called Concrete Schoolyard, which was kind of like it kind of was, if you can imagine, like the Jump On It kind of thing, where it was old school, like early hip hop, where it was not really dirty so much as just like, we're a cool group and we jump around and we talk like this and we rap a lot and you go now and you jump, like that kind of thing, like before rap kind of turned into the early days. You get it. So I'll put those 2 songs on there. And again, if you want to listen to these songs, I'm going to put the playlist in the description of the podcast so you can kind of listen along. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this as well. I'm going to just play it as we go. Oh, that's so good. So now I can hear it. Oh, yes. Oh, it brings me back. Okay, so now I know you can't hear it unless you're also listening to it, but it just brings me back, the Steal My Sunshine and the Concrete Schoolyard. It's every morning, and as soon as the part in Steal My Sunshine where they're like, you talked to Mark lately? Hey, look, he's a little down. Came on, I remember our counselors would be like, wake up, and we'd be like, no, it's too early, wake up. And it's like, and we'd be like brushing our teeth in the mirror, and it's just like a bunch of, and I'm not a guy, but I say this, like a bunch of guys in the mirror brushing their teeth, like half asleep, because even the counselors, they're like 18, 19 years old, right? And they have this huge responsibility of being parents for a couple months, and they don't really know what they're doing. They're just flying by the seat of their pants on instinct. But it's like, it was just like so cool to have 19-year-olds, like they go to college, like, oh my god, it's so cool, like tell me about parties. And anyways, so those songs really bring me back. And a lot of these songs are going to be about camp, because so much of my music I think I found at camp. Okay. The next one. Oh boy. I'm not sure how. It's conflicting. Okay. So, like I said, I worked at this camp for 12. No, I worked there for 5 summers. Camped there for 7. Was it 6? No. I was a camper for 7. I'm pretty sure I was on staff for 5. Summer of 2011, 12, 13, 14. Skip 15, went 16. Yeah, so it was 12 total. Okay. When I got old enough to work there, because you're the oldest you can be as a camper at 15. At 16, the next year, I don't think there's anything. No, you can do like a trip outside camp when you're 16. 17, they have like a counselor and training thing. And 18, so the summer after your first year in college, right? Or is it, maybe it's the summer after you graduate high school. I forget. But point is, it doesn't take very long to become a staff member. And in a lot of ways, like, you're learning as you go. And that's kind of part of it. I think they almost kind of see the younger staff members as like camper plus, because you're 18, like you're still a kid, right? You don't know what you're doing. So the time came, And I was like, I want to go work there because I always feel like myself there. I always feel like I can be who I am there. And as we now know, there was a lot to be said for being myself, right? Things that I wasn't exactly doing or able to know about myself and at that point, aka I'm trans. Things that I could kind of feel more comfortable about at camp, because at camp it's all about being yourself. And you can be one of two things at camp. You can either be a counselor, where you are basically a parent. You live in a bunk with 10 kids, roughly 10 kids, sometimes more, sometimes less. You shepherd the kids through the day. You make sure they brush their teeth and shower. If they get a boo-boo, you take them to the infirmary. If you make sure they get to lunch, you're the parent, right? But the camp also needs stuff to do, right? It's not like your parent is just, some camps work like this where the parent will just be like, hey, let's play soccer. And that's how that goes. But at my camp, there's people who had separate jobs to like make the fun stuff happen. They're called specialists. So there's sports specialists. So your counselor brings you to sports for an hour and you go play sports and play frisbee or play soccer or whatever. There's a swim specialists and lifeguards. There's rock climbing specialists. There's music specialists, like all different kinds of people that like have the fun activities, right? And specialists, you have throughout the day a bunch of different kids coming to you, a bunch of different ages. You don't necessarily have kids that you are parent to. But after dinner, when it's less about the activities and more about just like hanging out with each other, you do have a cabin that you go hang out with every night. So you kind of are like the fun aunt or uncle, if that makes sense. Anyways, I did not want to be a counselor because I couldn't sleep in the bunk. I sleepwalk. That was the main thing in the way. Like I would really have freaked the kids out. And it's true. Like it's not an over exaggeration. I'm sure I tell some sleepwalking stories on my other podcast episodes. It's bad. I needed to sleep away from the kids so that, sleepwalking didn't interfere. And specialists don't sleep in the bunk. So that was great for me. And, there's only so many specialty areas, right? I'm not a sports person. You know this. I'm not really a rock climbing person. I'm not particularly musical. There's theater, but I don't really want to do theater. Weirdly, the thing that fit the most for me was food. That's kind of the thing I had a lot of knowledge about and the most passion about. And the thing that the specialty area that I picked was called Jewish cooking. Jewish is less relevant for this story. But cooking, instructional cooking. So I'm not out there making food for everyone. That was not my job. That's a whole another kitchen staff that did that. I had an instructional kitchen. So that means that I had my own little kitchen that I was in charge of. It was maybe 500 square feet, not 400. It wasn't that big. I had like big preparation tables, cutting boards, utensils. I had little portable burners. I had a sink. I had a dishwasher, a fridge. I had to figure out all the ingredients, how to get them from like the main kitchen to my kitchen. It was all my job. And kids would come to me every day, 7 times a day. And we would basically, from start to finish, make something. It was like such a liberating thing for me as a person to have this for 5 summers. If you think about it, 7 classes a day, 2 months straight, no breaks, very, very few breaks over 5 summers. Like I got really good at this. I know how to run a class. It kind of was like running a restaurant, where I wasn't doing the cooking, the kids were. And I was telling them, hey, okay, like y'all need to figure out how you're going to get this soup base made, right? These are the ingredients. These are the instructions. Decide amongst yourself who's doing what. And I'll tell you what, when, because this is my trans best friend, I one of the first instances I remember feeling gender euphoria was when I was in this kitchen, because it was my space. I did my job very well, especially by the end. I was really good at it. So I felt comfortable enough, because I was in charge of that space, that I could wear whatever I wanted. Even though I wasn't thinking about it, like, I am trans and therefore I want to wear a feminine apron. That was kind of like the end result, was I wore an apron that was always very feminine. So like, I'd go to Walmart and find whatever the frilliest, like 1950s housewife looking domestic pink and red and flowery aprons I could find. And that's what I wore every single day. And I can't understate how important that was, to have that like freedom of expression. And even though I didn't know it was for trans reasons, it was still I felt safe. And a lot of times people would say, like, why are you wearing a girl apron? And my response to that would be, it was a self-defensive response. It was, I'm comfortable in my masculinity. Are you? Right? Like, that would be kind of the response, even though the answer was, this gives me gender euphoria. So anyways, that I'm just kind of setting the stage, because there's two particular things I did in that kitchen that is really, I don't know, that just really made me happy. There was one particular lesson that I did that was kind of something that I was known for a long time amongst the kids. It was a special lesson. It was usually I made like Jewish food, like we make latkes or hamantaschen or matzo ball soup or whatever. But every once in a while, I got to do just like a silly dessert thing. And because I loved themed experiences, I decided to make one on my own. So what I did is I took a big expo board and an expo marker, and I made this grid. Because at the time, I really loved Harry Potter. Obviously, Harry Potter is more problematic for the trans community. Now, that's neither here nor there, because at the time, we didn't know about J.K. Rowling. I didn't know, and I didn't even know I was trans. So, I really wanted to make, like, we were all that day theming our stuff Harry Potter. It wasn't just me. Like, every activity was supposed to do a Harry Potter themed activity. So I took the expo board and I made this grid. And I decided that day, oh, hi, Mackenzie. Hello. Mackenzie, I was literally talking about you on this podcast earlier. You're going to have to listen to find it out. I was talking smack. Yes, about how amazing you are. Yes. It was about the social media detox you recommended. I was talking about earlier. Okay. So, okay. So this was a Harry Potter themed activity that I was going to do. And the dish that I was making, and calling it a dish is very generous, because it was like this day in particular, I was just trying to get as many kids through the kitchen as possible. It wasn't really like it was sort of like a different kind of day than normal. But it was pretzel wands. Like, they look like an actual magic wand, but they're pretzels, they're maybe like 8 inches long. You get them in a bag. I had the kids get the wand, put frosting on it, and then cover the frosting with like sprinkles or chocolate chips or whatever. So it was like a little sweet treat. It didn't take very long. And the kids loved it. Hi, Kath. Hello. Is anyone else here that I want to know? No, I think I said hi to everyone. Hello. So I was like, okay, that's an easy, like, actual activity, but I want to theme the activity. And so what I did was I had the kids, if you ever know Harry Potter, like the wands, it depends what kind of wood your wand is made out of. Like, is it oak or is it cherry blossom or whatever? And then also what's inside the wand is important. Like, is there a phoenix tail feather inside, or is it like a dragon heartstring or whatever? So I had the kids make the wand however they wanted to, whatever. And then, as soon as all the wands were done, I had a helper in my room turn off the lights in the room. And it wasn't like dark, dark. It was just kind of like, ooh. And then I said, oh no, the lights have gone off. I think I need someone to turn the lights back on. And then I'd pick a volunteer and tell one of the kids to wave their frosting wand and say Lumos. And they did. And then the helper in the back would turn it on. And it was like, ooh. And all the kids, of course, knew it was like just for laughs and for fun. Like no one was under the impression. Like it was all in good like theming experience. But and then I'd also do a thing where I said, okay, I need someone to test their wand out. Try and levitate this feather. And I like held out a feather that had a string on it that was attached to like to the ceiling. And like, so I have someone cast Wingardium Leviosa, right? Makes it levitate. And then like the helper in the back would like pull the string up so the feather would float up, right? And the kids, ooh, very fun. And then we also did a thing with the sorting hat where I'd put like a mixing bowl on every kid's head. And then at the end, the expo board, like I said, had this grid where you could choose what wood your wand was made out of and what string, like inner string your wand was made out of. And it gave your wand a name, names that I would just make up, like the gnarled root, or, the barking dog, or, like names for a wand. I don't know. I just made stuff up. And then I wrote like a little fake description, like, ooh, that wand is good for charms, or that wand is good for healing. And so they could like tell me what wand they like ended up quote unquote making. And then I could tell them about their wand. Right. So it was like another layer of immersion. And to relate this all back to the music, right, which is kind of ultimately what we're doing here. I'm going to put one song on the playlist from the original Harry Potter theme, or the Sorcerer's Stone soundtrack. It's my favorite one off the soundtrack, called Platform 9 3/4. It's the most like gentle and subtle one, and I just love it so much. And even though every time I hear it, I've listened to it so many times. I haven't listened to it a lot lately. I'm going to put it on to kind of have in the background. But, and of course, again, if you want to listen along, I put the playlist for this in the link, the podcast description. But I think it's just like a masterful piece of music. It does such a great job, more than any other song on here, of setting the mood. So yeah, I love it. Okay. There's one other song I want to talk about when it comes to cooking, this cooking class. So like I said, there was a day where I got to just like get a bunch of kids through the kitchen, and it was like, all right, do your wands. Oh, well, why don't you get, oh, cool, Wingardium Leviosa, da-da-da, that kind of thing. But then most of the time it would be an hour-long cooking session where all the kids would come in, we'd make something from start to finish. And as you can imagine at camp, it's less about learning how to cook and more about learning how to work together as a team and to communicate with your friends, right? Like that's the real soft skill that you get from, you're not going to really remember the recipe for matzo ball soup. That doesn't matter. What matters is that you work together with your team to make something awesome, and then you got to treat at the end. So, one of the things that I would make that kids really liked was chocolate chip cookies, right? We make the cookie dough from scratch, and then we bake the cookies. But if it doesn't take a long time. It doesn't take a long time. It's very quick to make cookies, especially if if you're making it all by yourself. Maybe it'll take you an hour because you got to find everything. But when you're an industrial kitchen ready to cook stuff, and you have 13 people, like I could get a dough ready in less than 10, maybe 5 minutes. But, what if those 13 people could not speak to each other? What if you had to figure out the recipe for chocolate chip cookies without the ability to speak? Okay? Now, that is the exercise that I would sometimes do with my kids that came through, where we would make chocolate chip cookies without any sound. Now, when I commit to a bit, I commit. That shouldn't be a surprise to you. Hi, Ollie. I commit. So instead of just like, I speak sign language, does that count? Sure, but I'll tell you what, none of the kids that came through knew sign language, so that cheat code was not available to them. So I could have just done a thing where the kids file in and they say, all right, everyone, we're about to be silent. No. I didn't do that. Okay. What I did, there was a door to the kitchen, so I'd like lock the door. There's a window so I could see outside. They could see me. I'd like wait by the window. And the kids would all come and they're like, let us in, let us in. They got a lot of energy. And I'd look out at them and I just put my finger on my lips. Shh. And they'd look at me like, what? No. We want to like go be crazy in the kitchen. And I'd like shake my head. I said, I wouldn't even say anything. It wasn't like I wouldn't say you have to be quiet to come in. I would be like committed to the bit before they even realized the bit existed. That's how committed I was, okay? Just, I put my finger to my lips and then I just like give them like the knowing look. You got to mimic me here. And eventually everyone in the group would realize what was going on. It wouldn't take long. And they'd be like all quiet and they say, okay. And then I would open the door and press play on one of the nerdier songs, hopefully the nerdiest. I can't imagine it being too much nerdier than this. There's a video game called Faster Than Light that has this really like ethereal space synthesizer music that kind of like makes you feel the silence of space in a big way. And so I play that song. And it was just the best. It's called Space Cruise. And I'd have a couple other songs from that soundtrack as well, but we'd play those, right? So I'd have everyone silently file in with this like very different, spacey, weird music. I was happy, but like, okay, this is different. And they'd file in. And then I would deliver the information via body language, right? So I challenged myself to be like, I'd wave and I'd have everyone wave back to me, right? And if any kid ever decided to like say something, I'd like give them the evil eye and like, and I can't really, it's hard. It's an audio medium, but I'd like, look at them and put my fingers on my lips, say, without saying it. I'd give them the look with my eyes. Yeah. And then it would be a lot more time we'd take. Like we're really taking our time because we have 50 minutes. I would essentially like give them the recipe, but with just like fingers and like trying to act out like I'd have to act out flour, right? And I'd act out 2 cups. And then we'd kind of like, without saying anything, organize into teams of like, this is going to be the wet ingredient team. This is going to be the dry ingredient team. And not a word was spoken, right? And I think once the kids realized what was happening and accepted this as the reality of their next 50 minutes, it was like the most magical thing to watch. Like 11-year-olds completely silently making chocolate chip cookies that they really don't know how to make and making them well. And that was probably my favorite thing that I did. Like my favorite day, I remember being that one. Just because it was such a cool proof of concept of like why we enjoy cooking together, which is the connection that we make with each other when we're cooking, especially when it's a higher pressure environment where like we have to make something, and it's bigger than cooking. It's like we have to make a thing together that we all want to go well, and because we're going to eat it together, right? And that it doesn't really matter how you communicate, verbal, body language, whatever. The fact that you're communicating is like the power of it. That's the bond that you're making. So to like isolate it and to remove the variable of speech and to make a bigger challenge makes the sweetness, pun intended, of the cookies even more, but also I think it kind of pulls back the curtain for the kids in an interesting way of like, oh, I really enjoyed that experience doing things with people. And next time when I do it with talking involved, like I might enjoy it more. So anyways, that is a very pleasant trip down memory lane for me, and I hope for you as well. Let's see, where are we? Oh, wow, we're really good. I'm just rambling on here. Okay, let's see, what else do we have? Oh my. Oh boy. All right. Here's a good one. Okay, we're gonna leave summer camp for the time being. We're going to at the time of summer camp, I'm in college mostly, for the most part, right? Like I'm still in college for most of the time that I'm doing the cooking stuff at camp. Hi, Rach. During the other 10 months of the year, I'm doing school stuff for the most part, right? There's a summer break and then there's school. At school, I had a brief stint where I decided to sign up to be on the radio. It's exactly what you imagine. The college radio, not like a actual radio station with, like 93.3 FLZ. This was a radio station that broadcast directly out of a basement in my school, McAllister College. And I believe that it only went like a half a mile in any direction at most. Like you had to be pretty close to get a signal. And you also still had to be listening to the radio to get the signal in the first place, which by 2013 or this was in September of 2014 that I made this playlist. By that point, like no one's listening to the radio. So really this radio station, you could sign up to have a weekly slot. You'd show up and you essentially hook up your phone or your iPod or whatever and play music to whoever ended up listening. I think it was more of a thing like where when you're there, you tell your friends like, hey, I'm going to be on the radio, like listen in. And then it was like you and them listening basically. So very low stakes. Anyways, this, I did a show called Guilty Pleasures, where I would essentially play stupid music that I liked on this radio station and be like, welcome to Guilty Pleasures, the songs that you would be embarrassed to admit that you love, but you love. Mandy says my brother did that when he was in high school. He would be on Thursday night, but this was back in the 2000s, so he did 8 tracks. Wow, 8 tracks. I was not around for 8 tracks. So yeah, I did a show called Guilty Pleasures. So I do remember I have the playlist. I'll read you some of them. One I'm going to put on the playlist, the number one on the list, I guess I thought this was the first one that came to mind, was I Want Candy by Aaron Carter from the album Aaron's Party. If you're familiar with Aaron Carter, it's a good song, I guess. Other good ones from this, Rockstar by Nickelback, Genie in a Bottle, Trash in the Camp from Tarzan soundtrack, Come Clean by Hilary Duff, Baby One More Time, Mambo Number 5. I even put the Pokemon theme song on there. It was oh my god, Mackenzie said my friends did a milk chugging contest on our live radio with live puking. I'll never forget it. They got kicked off after that. Wow. Well, Mackenzie, now that brings me to one more camp story. Well, you spelled legendary wrong. D-A-I-R-Y. Am I right, Mackenzie? So my counselors did a similar thing at camp. When we were 15 in that final year, they took a bunch of milk, like a bunch of like little mini milk cartons, and they brought all of the 15-year-old quote-unquote boys back into the woods, which is a big red flag for, they're like 19, so I guess whatever. But they all 4 of the counselors chugged milk until all 4 of them puked, and they made us take pictures of them puking, which I'm not gonna lie, in retrospect, not cool, very, very not cool of them, and I was not comfortable at all, as I would imagine many of those kids were. But I remember they told us, like, in your entire life, you cannot tell anyone that this happened. You can't tell anyone. And at the time, we were like, yeah, cross our heart, hope to. I think they just didn't want to get fired, and none of them did. But 15 years later, I'm gonna talk about it. Anyways, okay. Okay, guilty pleasure, right? So those are one of them. The Aaron Carter song I'll put on the playlist, but the meat of this story is around, like, maybe one random week I was seeing someone, and I thought it would be a great idea, and nothing went wrong in this story. It all went to plan. Don't worry. I thought it would be a cool idea. What if I, oh God, I'm incriminating myself here. Invited this girl that I was seeing to the radio station and did a show called Love on the Radio, where I played music that you might, do the freak nasty to. While the music is playing, I am doing the freak nasty. Does that make sense? So I invited her. I said, welcome to Love on the Radio. We are going to be playing the most seductive hits for you today. And as soon as I turned the microphone off and turned the music up, we're just going at it like crazy in this studio. No holds barred. It was pretty great. And of course, we're listening to the music as it's going, right? So it was just very hot and naughty. It was very naughty, very bawdy, very, no one could see us. There was no windows, but what if, right? What if they knew? You know what I'm saying? So, of course we did our thing. We had more than enough time, and we finished up, literally. And I remember hearing a knock on the door because the next radio block had arrived. And we were just putting we had just finished. We had photo finish. And as I remember, we're just zipping it all back up as we walk out the door. And I can't imagine the sex smell in that room. Because it was a very small room and it was cold outside. So it was warm. The heat was going in that room. I cannot imagine that when they walked in, we did not look back. They were whoa, they were fucking. It wasn't a bad smell. You know what I'm talking about. For people who have done this before, you understand. Right? On that note, I'm out. Oh, okay. I mean, come on. You understand. It's just a funny thing to think about of did they know? Max says, one time I did the dirty on my professor's desk at night and then had class there the next morning. Nice. Nice. Oh, geez. Anyways, so yeah, that's the Love on the Radio. And the song that I remember, probably the most important song from that playlist was the Justin Timberlake smash hit, Pusher Love Girl. What a great song. I'm very mixed on Justin Timberlake for what he did to Britney. He was complicit in Britney's mistreatment by the media and everyone. But all right, Mandy. Mandy says we should listen to it with earbuds. We'll keep it G-rated from now on. We'll keep it G-rated. Let's talk about what's a G-rated thing to talk about? Animal crackers. Ooh, animal crackers. They kind of taste weird. I'm not going to lie. I think animal crackers are a 3 out of 10 in my book. Icing maybe makes them a 4 out of 10. I don't know why anyone put them in soup. Shirley Temple was out of her mind. Soup? Unless it was a sweet gazpacho. No, absolutely not. Does your 4-year-old get that reference, Shirley Temple? Okay, moving on. Let's see. We're at. I don't know. What do y'all think, chat? Should we do one more? One more. One more song. I kind of want to do one more. Let's see. Scrolling up. Bunch of like party playlists. Summer 2016. Oh man, so many good ones. I'm kind of scrolling up, seeing. Oh yeah. Here's a good one. All right. So we'll end on this one. Oh no. Wait. Hold on. I might have messed it up. Anyways, go to the playlist. There it is. Okay. So, I went to summer camp, Jewish summer camp for many years, like I said. It shaped my life in a big way. Mostly, in the most practical way, it introduced me to a lot of Jewish people in that area, which was Georgia, Atlanta, that area. So after 12 summers of being there, a lot of people from camp who ultimately became people that worked in the Jewish community in Atlanta knew who I was. So like when it came time, like, oh, I need a job after school, it just got really easy to work in the Jewish community. So I did. Real quick, Kirsten says, my partner has a specific snack basket at his house for me because I love snacks. And last time he got 3 bags of animal crackers and I was like, why? How random. But they were also kind of good. Okay. Huh. Yeah, I don't know who's still into animal crackers. They just have like a weird floral taste to them. There's something they add to animal crackers. Don't they add something? Am I wrong? Am I wrong? They add something. It's like an orange peel or something. Maybe not that. There's like a weird piquant to animal crackers. I don't understand it. I don't know. Mandy says, is it bad for me being 32 and still being much into emo music like I listen religiously? Finally saw My Chemical Romance and bawled my eyes out. No, I love My Chemical Romance. Also, Gerard Way is definitely trans and either privately living as a trans person out or not out to themselves. If you're familiar with the cheerleader outfit, or Gerard Way's comment on being raised around women and kind of like liking being called a girl, that's some trans stuff, Gerard. We love you. Anyways, Mackenzie says, I heard Lily loves Three Musketeers. Mackenzie, am I going to have to kick you out of this live stream? I think I might have to. For those of you listening, Three Musketeers is a trash tier candy. Three Musketeers, I think, should just be burned. Better used for kindling, as with Milky Way. Three Musketeers are so gross. Here's the problem with Three Musketeers. Apparently, we're not talking about music anymore. You're getting me off track. You've derailed this conversation. This is more important. Okay, look. Look at the anatomy of a Three Musketeers, okay? Let's examine the anatomy, okay? Cut it open, cross-section. What do you got? On the outside, chocolate. I'm not saying it's great chocolate. It's bad chocolate. Chocolate in other circumstances I will accept, but not in this one. On the inside, what is it? If you say nougat, technically you're correct, but it's more of just like sugary fluff. It's a fluffy cloud, says Ollie. Okay? Now, fluffy cloud is a good way of saying this. I say nasty, grainy sugar fluff. It's gross. Now, when you add caramel, slightly better, but still a focus on the fluff, which is gross. Now, when you add peanuts to the mix and further reduce the amount of fluff, you get a Snickers. And that is when the ratio tips into the right area. Now, don't get me wrong. if I could remove the fluff entirely, I would. What do you get when you remove the fluff entirely and maybe even the chocolate? The bad chocolate? What do you get? Test for people. If you're at home, I want you to say it out loud. What do you get when you take a Snickers and remove the chocolate and the fluff? You get a payday. That's correct, Ollie. You get a payday. Paydays, my friends. Paydays are the best candy bar. It is the best. It's the reason Snickers is good without the reason that Snickers is not as good. Salty and sweet. Exactly, Mandy. If you are listening to this and you think I'm wrong, don't at me. Reassess your own life and your own wrong opinions. Peanuts and candy bars are terrible? You're wrong, Ollie. Kirsten says, I'm Team Twix. I have no problem with Twix because the thing about Twix is you sub out the fluffy cloud from the Milky Way and make a nice little crunchy cookie. Crunchy cookie's good. I like a crunchy cookie, and it meshes well with the caramel, so I'm pro Twix. Ollie says, I am adding you so hard. I reject your and at you in return. Kirsten says they don't have payday in Canada. That's sad. I mean, it's basically just caramel and peanuts. So, I bet there's a version of it. Mandy says, I kind of hate Butterfingers. Yeah, I don't care for Butterfingers either. I also don't really like toffee that much. I think it's just a little bit too hard. It's like, it's not crunchy. It's like maybe it is too crunchy. Maybe that's what it is. I agree. Peanuts with Ollie. God, really? We don't like peanuts and Okay, so Paydays, S tier. Snickers, A tier. What other things have peanuts in them? Reese's Cups. It's peanut butter, but that's just okay. Yeah, Kirsten's allergic to peanuts. You do wrong. Your opinion that can't count here because you're biased. Butterfingers are tooth cement. I agree with that as well. Peanut butter is fine. Then what? It's the same thing. It's just a texture thing. Y'all, when I was in New York with my brother and my whole family, we went to the Hershey's store. When you walk into the Hershey's store, they give you a little mini Hershey's bar. It is so nice. And it's like, I didn't want this, but now I'm going to eat it. It's great. And then they have the flavorless peanuts. What are you talking about, flavorless peanuts? It's not packing peanuts. It's organic food peanuts. Peanuts are great. They're good and great. Anyways, the Hershey store, a whole bunch of different stuff. Every kind of Hershey's you could ever think of and then some. But they have the I'm making a hand gesture here of like, putting my 2 pointer fingers and my 2 thumbs together to make like a circle. It's about that big. It's like a Reese's cup that you can make. It's called a Stuff It or something. It's like what if Subway, but for a Reese's cup. So they have like a big jar of peanut butter and like it's like a little topping stand, and they take a huge thing of chocolate cup and they put a whole bunch of peanut butter in, and then you get to choose what goes inside on top of that, like extra Reese's Pieces or chocolate chips or whatever. We didn't get one because we thought it would make us sick, and we were probably right. But we thought about it briefly. Not it was very brief. We never really thought we were going to get one. Anyways, Orange Circus peanuts aren't real peanuts. Now that's true, Mackenzie. Those are bad. I think back in the day, I did a ranking. I think I did a candy ranking way back in the day. We can do a quick one real quick. Best candy, Payday. Then I would say Reese's and Twizzlers are tied. That's like A tier. B tier is going to be, I don't know. What else? Yeah, Twizzlers are A tier. I don't even know what B tier is. Like if they don't have any, I think I probably put Twix on my B tier. C tier can be like, like a Hershey's cookies and cream maybe. That would maybe be the next one, and then I don't know after that. Oh my. Ollie sent a picture. My best friend from Australia just sent me my favorite Australian candy so American candy can get gone. Yeah. I mean, we use wax in our chocolate, which is unforgivable. Maltesers, yes. Oh, I do love Whoppers. That's our version of them. Violet Crumble, crunchy. Haven't had some of these. Twirl. Also, Ollie, I want cookies. I want cookies. I want cookies. I want cookies. Do we have them in the US? Do we have Maltesers here? No, we don't have Maltesers. Our Maltesers are called Whoppers. We have Whoppers. The same thing, but yours have better chocolate, so yours are better. It's a British shop in Sacramento that sells specialty snacks and candies. That sounds good. Wait, are Maltesers different ones? Different flavors? I guess they would be. All right. Now this podcast is devolving. We got to remember that this is a podcast and not a chat. M&Ms. Oh yeah, peanut M&Ms are up there with like A-tier Twizzlers and Reese's. Send me tiramisu. Can your Australian friend be my Australian friend? Back to the music. Yeah. Back to the music. Okay. Final story. No, I want to talk about candy. We'll just end it. We'll end it. We're long enough on the podcast already. I'll wrap it up here. Wrap it up. See, like candy, it's wrapped up in a wrapper. Okay. Right. In terms of streaming, now if you are listening to this in the future, as in you're on the free feed and not on the Patreon feed, if you're listening to this before I've come back to do streaming and stuff again, this is more relevant. If you're on the free feed, wow, you can listen now, but it's not going to be as relevant. Okay. I am thinking today is Tuesday. I'm not sure if tomorrow's the right. It could be either tomorrow, as in Wednesday, the 27th of September, or the 28th. I'm not sure. Tomorrow I'm getting my tattoo retouched, so we could do that on stream, but I also feel like it would be nice to have like a 2-day week to ease back into it. So maybe it will be Thursday. Maybe I'll come back on Thursday. Everyone in the chat's like, no, come back Wednesday. We want you tomorrow. I get it. I want to come back too. It's, but I think Thursday. I think Thursday's the day. So I'll be back on TikTok stream on Thursday. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Spectacular. I'm going to go and snuggle Nugget. Nugget, do you want to come over here, Nugget? He's guarding the door. He says he's got important guard duties. Def don't do 5 days. Oh, I'm glad, Tiff. I'm glad. I will be here whenever you're here. Come back when you're ready. Thank you. Yeah, I don't want to even say officially yet because it's been very nice to detox. It's been very important. And I'm still, even though I'm on the upswing, caffeine withdrawal is still very real for me. Like, I'm still very low energy, and I don't want to like start my streams again while I'm low energy. Oh. All right, y'all. I'm getting a phone call, so I have to go. Love ya. Stay lovely. Bye.